It is great human wisdom for us to think and live by the fact that things that start well will end well. That is why in this beginning of the year, I want to invite us to really think about how we want to end our year. We cannot wait until December when we're doing all the Christmas shopping, when we're like decorating our hearts out, and when we're singing all the merry little Christmas carols, for us to start thinking about how it is that we want to end the year. That's not the time to do it. At best, plan the party, and think about how you're going to celebrate it. But really, truly, the way that you want to spend your year, this is the moment for you to decide it. This is the moment for you to really think about it. And I am not inviting us to make a list of goals and maybe wishes and dreams that we have for the year. Enough churches are going to encourage you. Enough pastors are going to preach a message, uplifting message, encouraging message, and very motivational for us to go get them, go do it, fulfill all your dreams, your heart's desire, all the things that God has called you to do, which is wonderful, and we should. However, really, the quality of the year that you want to have, that is what I'm inviting you to plan for, to be intentional about. Don't wait until you're in the midst of things, in the middle of things, for you to all of a sudden wake up and realize like, oh snap, this is not what I want to do. No, decide it now. Decide it now. And all of this thinking about endings and beginnings and all of those things really came to mind because right around December of 2023, the Latin American Christian community lost a very loved and very well-known pastor, prophet, might I add, and someone that was really, really dear to a lot of people. And because the person was so young, it really caused a stir. I mean, social media posts, because he was very well known by other pastors and all the prophets and all the evangelists and all the apostles and all those things. A lot of people, really went out of their way to express the how deep, sad, or how much shock or surprise they were about this loss. And there was one in particular that caught my attention, and then the person was saying something to the effect of that, and I really don't want to use the exact wording, but really what they were saying is that the gift can kill you, right? Like the assignment can kill you, because they were saying that the many sleepless nights, the constant travel and blah, 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 and all these things, like all the stresses of the assignment can cause you to really die in the process. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, snap. No, wait a minute. Hold up. We took a wrong turn somewhere, surely. And all of that came to mind because coincidentally, or by God's divine timely assignment, I had finished reading the full biography of Billy Graham. I highly recommend it. You've probably heard the name, whether you're in church, not church, whatever you do with your faith or don't do with your faith. Chances are you've heard of Billy Graham in mention. You maybe have heard a message. You might even know someone that assisted one of his campaigns, right? One of his crusades, just because, truly well known. And the interesting thing and an interesting fact about his life is that really he was a couple of months short of turning 100 when he passed away, sadly. But more than that, it is known that his ministry expanded well beyond, I think it was 6 decades, so 60 plus years in ministry. Just phenomenal things that he did, and just the risk and the boldness that he had for sharing the message of Christ. Fascinating things. Now, the thing that caught my attention and thinking about this young pastor that suddenly passed away, there was something that it made me think about when I was reading through the biography, in the words of Billy Graham. And I quote, he writes, and this is him reflecting about his home life. This is like at the end of his ministry when he wrote these words. But then he says, I now warn young evangelists not to make the mistakes I made. Pause. That's wisdom right there. Do not make the same mistakes. And maybe we just need to learn from different people's mistakes, okay? That's tip number 1. But I continue. And then he writes, but Ruth, his wife, reminds him that the situation is different today. There are many more evangelists and far more Christian programs on television and radio. And might I add, there's social media, there's the internet, and whatever other platform anybody can invent nowadays. All of that, right? So then he says, so perhaps the need for constant travel is less necessary. When I started years ago, I was responding to an urgent need in the best way I knew how, and God has been faithful. So, okay, so you have an assignment and you're super stressed out and you're going everywhere and you're doing all of this, whatever it is that you're doing, you're living it to the fullest potential because you think you're like the only one that can do this. And then the amazing thing, and then what really caught my attention is the fact that he says, but today there are far more people. You know, there are far more influencers. There are far more evangelists. There are far more pastors. There are far more CEOs. There are far more, you name it. There are far more people to do the different things, right? You're not the only one doing what it is that you're called to do. And so we must, by the love of Christ, we have to stop with this heroism complex that we have, where we think we have to do it all and it's always on, on, on. Stop it, okay? Stop it. It's not blessing anybody, especially you. But the other thing that this really made me think about when he says they are far more is that we really have to be discerning about who are the people that we can collaborate with. Surely there is someone that you can partner with that you will accomplish more. And so, like, literally, if you don't know who those people are, ask God and he will show them to you. The point is that you don't have to do it alone, okay? That was the number one thing. So the second thing that I learned, in reading his biography, and one of the things that throughout the biography that I find is that he would always kind of just pose this question to God. He would say, "Why me, Lord?" And it's very fascinating to just kind of read through what he perceived God's, or kind of what some of the conclusions he came to at different moments of his life. But the point that I really want to focus on is that this is also him reflecting at the end of his ministry and just really thinking about the summation of all the things that he did. And he said, I also have many regrets. So he's saying, and then he says, I would do many things differently. So hold up. One of the most successful evangelists of all time, right? With the exception of maybe like Jesus, might we say? He's saying that he himself, he failed many times and he would do a lot of things differently. So that begs us to ask the questions of ourselves. What are we doing now? What are we planning to do maybe in the next couple of days, weeks, months, maybe even years? That maybe at the end of days, and I don't want you to be morbid, but that you might question yourself and say, you know what, I should have done different. Or I really could have done that differently. If any of that you think will come to mind, then make the changes. Make them now. Like be proactive. Don't wait. Don't wait until it's too late. And then he goes on to say, was I discerning as I might have been about which ones to take and which to turn down? And he's talking about whether or not all of the engagements that he committed himself, whether they were necessary. And then he's saying, I doubt it. He says, I doubt it. So his conclusion was that I would have discerned more, or I would have been better. I would have carried myself with better discernment to make decisions about which engagements to turn down and which ones to accept. So then he says, although most of that travel was necessary, some of it was not. So what things are you doing that they seem like they're necessary now, but in reality, years from now, you're going to be like, I didn't need to do that. If any of that you think potentially could come to mind, then make the changes now. Like stop, like take a pause and breathe a minute, make some plans to rearrange some things. And so then he goes on to say that, he will spend more time in prayer and all those things. But anyways, so the point is that, number one, that there are far more people doing what he was doing. So then he's saying, I don't need to do so much of it anymore. And so that really should make us reflect, what are the things that we're doing that maybe we're taking on so much, but we really can reach out and maybe partner with someone and maybe do less and accomplish more. That's something worth us exploring. And then the other thing is that for us to really, truly be discerning of what opportunities we need to take. So for this beginning of the year, I pray that you get discernment. And I pray that you really, 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 really adopt the words of Jesus. When Jesus says, and these are some very well-known verses, but very tough for people to live by. first one, he said, this is Jesus himself talking, right? So, I mean, we can argue Jesus now, can we? We can't. Jesus says, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Like, if you, whatever it is that you're doing, if it is stressing you out to the point that you're anxious and that you just feel completely overburdened, like you can't even live life, then examine yourself, because number one, maybe you need to go to the one that can give you rest. But then also he says, and this is like, I love this. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. If you are carrying on your activities, your plans, or your goals and whatever it is that you're doing with your time, if you carry yourself on and then you are just always completely burdened and overwhelmed by it is what maybe you're not even overwhelmed, but you're just like completely consumed with so many things, then examine yourself, because maybe you've taken on something that you weren't meant to take on, and maybe you need to go back and then really ask Jesus to help you and teach you how can you effectively take his yoke, how can you really be in discipleship, learning from Jesus himself how it is that you can have rest. So for this year, that is my wish to you, that whatever it is that you do it in such a way that you can feel the lightness of it, and that also you can do it with ease, but you do so because you are yoked, you are paired, you are completely submitted and surrendered to the one and only person who can truly give your souls rest. So take it from Jesus, take it from Billy Graham, and now I am literally saying it to you. Do less and accomplish more. And that way, maybe, just maybe, your soul can find some rest. So until next time, bye-bye.